Welcome, everybody, to the Red and Blue podcast, where we discuss faith, fire, police, and prayer. We are your hosts. My name is Drew, firefighter EMT, along with my partner, Pete, police detective. Today, we have a very special guest interview we're going to do. Pete, could you please tell us more about our guest here today?
Yeah, I'm super pumped. We're going to have on with us Matt Outlaw. Matt and his wife, Amy, are owners of 731 Woodworks out of Southern Arkansas. Matt is a prior Arkansas state trooper, and he's since transitioned out of law enforcement into YouTube and woodworking. But he has an extensive background in public safety, and God has really blessed him in his venture. He's got over 500,000 followers on YouTube, and we're just so blessed to have him on with us today.
Hey guys.
Matt, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet y'all.
Yeah. So how this all started getting going. My kids, I've got 3 kids. They're 5, 3, and 1, and we love to mountain bike. That's kind of our thing. I don't share this a lot of time. My oldest son happens to have autism, and riding bikes is a huge therapeutic activity for him. So being that that's the case, I've started doing some woodworking. I have a little background in it. My father was kind of a DIY carpenter. He built half of an add-on to his house back in the 70s and taught himself everything. My brother became a furniture builder. So I have a little bit of background into it, but I'm diving into it, full speed ahead right now. So I stumbled upon your channel a few weeks ago, and one thing that really stuck out to me was the content there is super practical. If you're listening and you want to get info on builds, on tool deals, you got to at least subscribe and sign up for the tool deals. I took advantage of a bunch of deals this Black Friday, and the garage is getting stuffed. So
awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's kind of how this came about. And the reason why I really asked you on, Matt, is because it's just awesome to see someone who is unashamed of their faith, and you make that part of your channel. And it's obviously a focus of yours. It's an all day, everyday thing. It is for Drew and I, and we're just blessed to have you on, man.
I appreciate y'all.
So why don't you give us just a background into how you came into law enforcement?
Well, I never thought I was going to be a police officer in my life. When I graduated high school, I had no idea what I was going to do. Thought I was going to go to college, and that didn't work out. So I started construction and worked construction for a long time. And then I think I was laid off. I was at home, and back in the day, they used to send out what they called shoppers guides and papers, and they would have job listings for the local town and stuff. And I saw a job listing for a firefighter, and I told my wife, I was like, "That'd be fun." And she said, "Well, I know the mayor's secretary. Let me call up there." And she called, and the mayor's secretary answered. Well, the fire chief happened to be standing in the office when she happened to be, And so I don't believe there's coincidences. So he was standing there, and she said, "Well, here he is." And so she got me an interview the next day. I went up there and interviewed and got the job. And so I worked as a firefighter for 3 years full time. But it was a small department. It was only four guys full time, and then the rest of it was volunteer. I did that for about a little over three years, I think. And then it just didn't pay. It was a small town. I think it was paying $18,000 a year. A guy that retired with 26 years was making $19,500. So I knew it wasn't going anywhere for me, and there was nowhere around. I would have loved to have been a firefighter the rest of my career. I loved it so much, but it just wasn't nowhere around that was close enough for me to practically do it. So the Arkansas State Police was hiring a dispatcher. And so I put in for that job, and I got that one because I had been a firefighter. The guy that hired me told me, he said, "If you didn't have the radio experience as a firefighter, we wouldn't have hired you." I was like, okay. So for 2 years, and then I applied for the state police troop school and got in. Again, I already had my foot in the door, so it made it a little easier, but that's how I got into law enforcement. My wife told me one time when I was a firefighter, I'd applied for the local PD, and she said, "I didn't marry a cop." And I always mess with her about that after I made trooper.
Yeah, it's actually a running joke in our office that we're all going to quit and go apply for the Arkansas State Police because we all want to chase people again.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know, Drew. I don't know if you've seen the police activity videos on Arkansas State Police, but they do not mess around.
Nope.
I don't think I've seen them. No.
It's probably the best in the country. Do you have some of the things that we talk about on the channel are experiences, like meaningful, it could be spiritual or not, but any kind of lessons that you've learned along the way in your career in public safety before you transitioned out of it?
Man, I always made it a point to pray before every shift. During the shift, I literally would just let God lead me on that shift. And I really believe he leads police officers, firefighter. Like if you're in the public safety realm, he's going to put you in the right spot at the right time, whether you think it's the right spot at the time or not.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll back up a little bit. My mom was addicted to prescription medication my whole life. When I was 4, she got hooked, and she was hooked forever. And so one of my things that I wanted to do as a trooper was to, focus on driving while intoxicated. And so I made that my mission in life. When I went on the highway, that was all I cared about.
Mm-hmm.
If they were speeding, I wrote them. Everybody writes speeding tickets, whatever. But my main focus was to look for an impaired driver. And so I would pray before every shift. God, just put me in the path of the intoxicated driver today. Let me be able to pick up on those signs and those clues. And in that, you have to study that stuff to get good at it, right? Mm-hmm. And you can't just say, okay, God, give it to me. he just give it to you. You got to put in your time and your effort too. And so I would really study like the mannerisms and the driving habits and everything there is to know about, as far as I could figure out how to get an impaired driver off the road as far as alcohol goes. And so I would focus on those things, and I'd pick up on the little cues that they leave little clues. Once you start doing it long enough, you pick up on the little bitty things that an impaired driver will do that a normal driver won't.
Right.
And so that was just basically my mission in life, was just to, as far as the question is, just pray.
Yeah. Did you have any special assignments while you were assigned to the patrol?
I had, I didn't do like special assignments. I was in a rural part of the state, so I didn't join the SWAT team or anything like that. I was a field training officer, taser instructor, that kind of stuff. Like there was roles to be done, but I didn't sign up for the SWAT team or anything like that.
Okay.
Do you have any?
Oh, go ahead.
Do you have any experiences notable that you learned from firefighting or anything like that you want to share?
Yeah, it's hot.
That is very hot.
I tell you, man, I had so we were basically a one-man department at any given time. The chief would be there in the day, but the on-duty guy would be there by himself 24 hours a day. I had a call out one morning, and what they would do is they would ring my phone and say, "Hey, you got a fire at such address," and then they would set the pagers off for the volunteers to meet us there. Well, they called me one morning and said, "Hey, there's a fire. I don't remember the address, Shelton Street. I know that." And I said, "Okay." And so I took off. When I got there, there's 2 little girls standing on the porch, and they were like, "Grandma's inside," and the house was going up. And so I'm the only one there. And so I ran in and get back there. Well, this elderly lady had her electric blanket, caught her bed on fire, and she had burns to her legs and stuff because she was still in the bed when it happened, and she was trying to put it out, and it was way too far gone to put it out with basically a little bucket. She was getting out of the thing. So I wound up having to fight this lady to get her out of the house because she was wanting to put her out the fire, and it was just too far gone. Anyway, hot, smoky, by myself, no air pack on, nothing like that. I'm dragging this lady down the thing. And like I had like one of those near death type things, man. It shook me like for a while. I never thought that stuff would bother you. Like I figured, whatever, like everybody goes through stuff.
Yeah.
But it took a while. Like my wife was like, "Something's going on with you. What's going on?" And like for a few weeks, I was like, "Yeah, I think I almost died in there." And that kind of it'll make you kind of reevaluate things and start thinking about things a whole lot differently. And so from that point on, I was like, "Yeah, this is real life, man. This is." Before, it was all fun and games. Fun as far as people's houses burned down is not fun, but when you're a firefighter, that's your job. So you want to do your best at your job. And I enjoyed the job. And so when that happened, I was like, "Oh, this is serious." And before then,
Yeah.
it'd been I'd worked there a year or so, year and a half.
Mhm.
And, I'd been in houses that are on fire and stuff like that in the pack, but it was different when you by yourself.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. No, I don't know what that feels like, but I know what it feels like to be chasing 2 armed robbers through a red, kids at home. You're thinking, am I going to make it through this red light?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all have those moments. You know, when I got into law enforcement, I was actually coming out of being a college level athlete, and I kind of had my tribe in college. I went to a Christian school, so I was really close with the guys that I played football with, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to get into law enforcement, because I lost my tribe there.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have another one. So I entered into law enforcement and kind of had that camaraderie, going to battle with your buddies. I think a lot of guys really struggle with leaving law enforcement because, 1 or 2 weeks after someone retires, they're old news basically at the station. Nobody's talking about them anymore.
That's right.
I think we need to do a better job at that. As far as keeping in touch with the guys that retire and making sure that they're not, going to succumb to alcoholism or other mental health issues or whatever. But it seems like it was a difficult decision for you to leave. And I was just wondering how the transition out of it was in terms of just how you felt and how you kind of, obviously we have the faith to rely on, but I think that can be tough for a lot of people.
Man, it was tough. It was one of the hardest things I ever done. I cried like a big old baby the day that they held a little going away party for me. And I had this whole thing I was going to say to them, and I stood up and nothing come out but tears. My wife had to stand up and she was crying too. But she wound up telling what I wanted to say because she already knew what I was going to say. It was just tough, man. But I told them that day, I said, fellas, because I'd worked with a lot of these guys since I started. Like I was a supervisor. I'd made sergeant, but I was still sergeant over the area that I was from. So I had worked with those guys for some of them 13 years. And I told them, I said, after today is different. I said, I know it's going to be different. I've watched it too many times. When somebody leaves, you're not in the clique no more. You're not on the job with them anymore. You're not in the trenches anymore. Mm-hmm. So things just will change.
Right.
And I said, but anytime you can call me. And so some of them have kept in touch, a couple of them, but most people have their, their thing, and they're going to go about their way. And I knew that before I quit, I knew that. And so it's one of those things I kind of expected, but it was still tough. I still miss them. I still miss working with them, talking to them every day, just shooting the breeze. It's something that I don't think it's kind of like you. I'm sure you miss the college athletics part of it, just being with people, with your guys and stuff. That's just, I think it's really anything though. If I worked at a paper mill for 15 years and we're with the same crew, like I would still be missing that crew,
Yeah. What did you do to de-stress while you were still in?
I like to work out, so I think that helped a lot. My wife and she's my best friend, so anytime I get to hang out with her, that was awesome. As far as like I still work out almost every day or 5 days a week. I try to keep that regimen in. I don't want to get fat and lazy, and so I try to keep that mentality. I had when I come out of troop school, I was in the best shape of your life, whatever they say, and like a year and a half in, I just started getting chubby, and I was like, I gotta do something. And so riding in that car was tough, man. And so I started back working out, and now I got a little home gym here that I've built up over the last few years since COVID. I guess I started adding a little more here and there when I could. And so I got me a pretty good little spot to work out. And I try to keep pretty strict about it. 4:30, the alarm goes off. I'm getting up. I'm going to get to work out. Try to do 5 days a week. Sometimes I do 6 or whatever. But
so Drew and I are both garage gym homeowners,
nice.
if you will. I've trained Drew in the past, and because I have a background in strength conditioning. What's your current split like? Like what's your weekly routine in terms of your workouts?
Well, I was running for a long time, a few years. I was running a program called 531. I'm sure you've heard of it, but there's an app. There's an app called, I don't remember what it's called. but there's a really good app that I was using, and literally like all I was doing was powerlifting. And so I was able to get my deadlift up to 500 pounds. Like I had worked on that for years, like 6 years or so, trying to get that 500. And when I got it, I was like, okay. It's kind of like, now what? Like I'm not going for 600. So this is it's called Key Lifts. It's an awesome app if you just want to do powerlifting. Now I'm running an app called Shred, and it's really good. It's you can do different programs or whatever, but it basically breaks up your workout into however many days a week you tell it. And I told it 5. So one day maybe legs and abs. One day, like tomorrow's chest and back. This morning was full body. So they'll throw in a full body once a week. And so it just kind of keeps everything, it mixes everything up. And that's why the reason I switched from Key Lifts to Shred was I just needed something a little different because I was doing the same thing and like my body had adapted. I was like, okay, I need to do something different.
Yeah, I did 5-3-1 back in the day. Very effective.
Yeah.
Really simple, but sometimes simple is good as long as it's consistent.
Well, the Key Lifts app has like hundreds of templates. It's not just 5-3-1. It's kind of based on that. Well, you can do the regular 5-3-1. There's like a whole bunch of different templates you can run. If you just wanted to, max out every week, there's a template for that. And like, it'll really shake things up.
Cool.
Awesome.
How's your faith been impacted since leaving law enforcement? I know for a lot of cops, you have a really big sense of purpose, putting on the uniform, knowing you're going to be in front of somebody who's going through something tragic, and you have that big opportunity to show them love, and in our case, show them the love of Christ by how we treat them, by how we talk to them, and it's like a daily thing. That's just what you do. So I could imagine that might be difficult, kind of getting out of that role, and then now you're creating content, you're doing other things. How's your faith been since?
I think it's stronger now than it ever has been. The reason I left the state police was because I felt like God was calling me to do full-time content. So as far as faith goes, like I have a video on my channel. You just search 731 Woodworks, Leap of Faith. And it talks about me leaving the state police for basically doing YouTube full time because God was calling me to do it. I went in and told my captain and lieutenant the day I quit. They had no idea I was quitting. I wasn't like leading up to this and people knew it was coming or anything. My wife and I have been praying about it. If you've never read The Circle Maker, read it. Like, it's a really good book. Basically, it talks about praying in circles. And so we got outside our house and would just like walk around the house and pray that God would make this full time for us. And he did. He opened the doors. And but when I took the leap of faith, as I said, there wasn't really no security net. We saved up enough money to make it for a year because we knew that God was kind of leading us this way. And so we started preparing for that. And so we did save up enough money that we could make the house payment for a year, if this didn't work out. And so when I decided to take the leap of faith, I was giving up insurance and retirement and a steady paycheck. Like it's coming every 2 weeks. She's going to hit your bank account. And so I was working out and I had been praying about it and worried about it for like weeks, like just stressed over it. And I was praying, like, God, is this what you want me to do? Like, is this real? Like, make a video for a living, And I was racking the weight plate back, and I heard him speak to my spirit. He's, I just plain as day, like not audible, but just peace. He said, I created the universe. I got this, and instantly I had peace. Instantly, and I was like, okay. And so I come in the house and I woke my wife up. I said, it was Friday. I said, I'm quitting Monday morning. And she said, okay. And she had total peace with it. Like, she's a warrior too. Never had any doubts about it. And I went in Monday morning and told my captain and lieutenant, and they were like, are you crazy? Like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, I'm serious. I said, this is my 2 weeks notice. And they were just taken aback. They had no idea. And I said, look, I believe I'm being called to do this. I believe God's calling me to pursue this because we can reach a whole lot more people with YouTube than I can individually on the street. And I said, if he's calling me to do it, I want to do it. I said, there was a man one time, named Jonah who was told to do something. He didn't do it. He wound up in a fish, and I don't want to be in a fish. And so yeah, 2 weeks later, I was done. And, but since then I have we've been able to, God's been able to use us as a vessel, even for people that don't believe. When they watch the channel, I work Christian-based church. I don't believe in Bible beating people. I don't think that you're ever going to talk anybody into heaven by beating them over the head with the Bible or telling them they're wrong in certain situations. You have to build a relationship with them, and the YouTube lets you build a relationship with them. And once that opens doors for conversations.
Yeah.
People email constantly, like multiples a week, that I'm able to talk to. Some people will email and say, I don't believe what you believe, but there's something about your videos, or I don't believe, I've had like different religions say, hey, I'm Muslim, or I'm not, I don't believe in I'm an atheist. They'll tell me that. And, but they see something in the content and the channel that resonates with them. And so that just opens doors for us to be able to share the gospel with them. We do that in multiple ways. There's a link in every description of all my videos that go to the story of Jesus. It's a website called The Story. And it literally goes from creation through Jesus. And at the end, they can say yes to Jesus. And it basically, presents the gospel to them. And then at the end of the month, it'll send me like basically a little statistics of whoever, that doesn't give a specific name, but it'll tell me how many people have said yes to Jesus, or how many people watched the video.
Wow.
We also send every physical order we send out. We have tracks, like it's called the $1 Million Question. You can get them on livingwaters.com. Looks like $100 bill, but it's $1 million bill. And on the back, it asks $1 million question, where you're going to go when you die. And it presents the gospel in that way. And so that's just a few ways, but yeah, it's the faith part is stronger now than ever.
That's great to hear.
Amen.
So what's kind of on the horizon for you in terms of your business, family? Like what's up and coming next?
Working right now. I have some product right there on the shelf that I'm getting a website developed for. We're creating a tool company, Faith Valley Tools, and that's going to let us share the gospel through tools. And so we're going to know there's no other tools that have scripture on them or anything like that. So first, starting out with a few small tools. We have another product that should be coming in within about a month or so.
Okay.
But the first tools are they're called card scrapers. You use it to scrape wood, and they have Send Me on it. Send Me. And they have Be the Light, Matthew 5:14. Those two. And then from there, we'll scale from there as the Lord blesses. And then we're going to take the profits of that. 10% of the profits of that company will be donated to missionaries. So that's kind of the way we're going to try to help fund missionaries through this business.
Great.
That's awesome.
I think it's impressive that your faith has gotten stronger since you've done more woodworking, because when I woodwork, oh man, it's like the most trying time I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It can be frustrating.
Yeah, it's not something that comes natural for me. It was something that came natural for my brother and my dad, but I'm not that kind of guy. I'm more of a relational kind of person. I can get in an interview room and I can be a best friend to a homicide suspect. That's not a big deal. But yeah, the woodworking stuff is tough. I think being a good woodworker, you got to be able to hide your mistakes.
Yeah.
By adding trim or fixing things up, making things appear a little different,
or burning it and starting over.
Yeah. And I think that's the best part about being a believer in Christ, is that we don't have to hide any of our mistakes because He's taking care of it all.
That's right.
Amen.
Do you have any closing statements you want to leave us with?
Man, just if just one, pray, especially people who start thinking about different things. Like a lot of guys, men and women both, are exiting law enforcement at fast rates now.
Yeah.
I just read something on that just a couple of days ago. But a lot of people looking for something else, if your heart's not in it, I don't think they should stay. That's kind of the way I felt with state police. That is a calling in and of itself, fire, EMS, or police. So if your heart's not in it, you're not doing anybody any good. So start praying for God to open those doors. And if you have a dream big and chase it. Like it can happen. God can open the right doors. I never would have ever thought that I could have been a full-time YouTuber 5 years ago. I would have told you it was impossible, but God can make the impossible happen. So just dream big and pray about it.
Right on. Well, I personally just taken back by your humility to be willing to come on and spend some time with us. We super appreciate it. And who knows, maybe we can do it again in the future.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
Thank y'all.